Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews with another beer review for you today. For this one we are going to head up to Stockholm and visit a brewery who I've never tried anything from before. So we're going to go to the Modernist Brewery, and the beer that we have tonight is called Naut, and it's a black IPA. It comes in at 7.5% and it's rated quite highly actually. It's rated at 79 overall on Rate Beer, but it's only rated at 41 within the style, and usually when you get something like that it tells you that it's going to be a good beer, but it's really quite quirky within the style, so it should be a very interesting one for us to have a taste of tonight. And as far as I can tell, this beer was only released in January of 2016. I'm reviewing this one for you in early February, but you'll see the video sometime in March. But I bought this beer just as it was released in late January, so should be one of the first reviews you'll see of this on YouTube, so I hope you guys enjoy it. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Modernist Brewery. This is the first time I'm trying one of their beers incidentally, and there's all the usual social media down there, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd, so please follow me on there. Your support would be much appreciated, and if you do want to suggest any beers to me, do get in touch, and I will apologise in advance for any bad Swedish pronunciations in this video. I'm still getting used to Swedish since I moved here to Lund in Skåne, but it's kind of progressing slowly but surely. Pronunciation though is one of the harder parts of the Swedish language. But anyway, to tell you about Modernist Brewery. So Modernist Brewery are based in Liljeholmen, which is in the southwestern part of Stockholm in Sweden, and the company was founded by 5 friends, Andreas, Jonas, Marcus, Morten and Valtteri, and the company was founded in 2012 and it's based in the old Becker's paint factory in Liljeholmen. But all of the guys who are involved at this brewery come from science and technology backgrounds. Apparently 4 of them have PhDs, and these take in fields such as chemistry, biotechnology and nanophysics. But 3 of the guys actually worked together at a biotechnology company, and they soon found that they were interested in craft beer, so they decided soon after to set up their own company after visiting a few other craft breweries in the Stockholm area. But the company is actually a limited company and it has no debts at all, and at the moment all of the profits are actually being reinvested in new equipment for the brew house. And when I was actually filming this review, just before actually, you could go on the Facebook and see that they were buying a lot of new tanks for the brewery, so they are going through a period of investment and expansion at the moment. But much of the equipment that they had originally in the brewery was built by hand, and obviously when these guys are scientists and engineers they will be quite proficient at that. But they're a fairly new brewery. As I said, they only started in 2012 and they do have 5 different regular beers as far as I can figure. So there's this guy here, which is the Naut, which is the black IPA. There's Meteor versus Earth, which is a double IPA. Savant, which is a saison beer. Stockholm Syndrome, which is an amber ale. Hopefully I can review that because I love a good amber ale. And they also have their Sportkrop, which is the Imperial Stout. They have their TXS small batch series as well, which are their experimental beers, and I think you can only get these in the Stockholm area. I had to order this one through Systembolaget to get it delivered down here to Lund, so these beers are available nationwide in Sweden. If they're available further afield than that, I really don't know at the moment. So these guys have got some quite well rated beers, so if you do get the chance, do have a go at them. But let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer now. So on the front here it says Modernist Brewery, the Naut Black India Pale Ale. Explore the dark side of IPA. Naut is a Simcoe, Cascade and Mosaic hopped ale fermented with American West Coast yeast. A trip into the darkness where full-bodied malt meets a long, lingering bitterness. Get contrasted with smooth hop aroma. Like all our beers, Naut is handmade, bottle conditioned and unfiltered to ensure the truest and most genuine flavour. This Black India Pale Ale is best served fresh in a snifter, and this guy is fairly similar to a snifter, but enjoy your Modernist beer. So this one comes in at 7.5%, and as it said, you've got Simcoe, Cascade and Mosaic hops in here, so it should be quite nice. Simcoe gives you a nice sort of passion fruity note. Cascade will give you some some sort of grapefruit flavours, and the Mosaic is a nice kind of citrusy and floral aromatic character. You do get some tropical fruit with it too, but the beer, as you can see, is quite nicely presented. I'll just bring up the camera and let you see that before we open it up. There you can see it. There's the Modernist symbol there. You can see that is on the bottle cap as well. There's the little bit that I just read for you, and you do have some quite interesting artwork around there. It's quite trippy actually. But you can see the kind of Swedish architecture and the old, I guess, 1960s, 1970s cars on there. But it looks really quite nice. So without further ado then, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. As I said, a 7.5% black IPA, so should be very interesting. My first try of this brewery. So as you can see, quite a nice smoky opening on this one. I'm looking forward to this. I quite like the hops that they've put in this one. And it's always good to try new beers and breweries. I did the Swedish Beer Month for you over December, but I'm still discovering there's a hell of a lot of craft breweries over here in Sweden at the moment, so I'm always discovering new ones. And do please get in touch and let me know some of the other ones that you'd like me to have a look at, because there's no way I've covered a lot of them. I've covered maybe about 40 or 50 of them so far, but there's probably nearer 100 actually in Sweden, so do get in touch and recommend the beers for me to have a look at. But with this guy, you can see it's poured a nice dark ebony rosewood colour. There's a solid finger and a half of a frothy beigey coloured head on this one. It looks very, very nice. Perfect pour on a beer actually. You can see the beer is very dark, so you're not going to see much transparency with it. If I bring the light down just to let you see the colour, even if I put the light right in front of it, you can see there is a bit of a ruby edge to the beer. But other than that, it is very dark, and I'm not seeing any transparency when I put my fingers to it. You can see one or two little bits of sediment just at the bottle there, at the bottom, very small particles, a couple of big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass, but there's not even too many bubbles visible going up towards the bottom of that head there. So overall, it looks like a very nice beer. So let's give it a smell and see how we can get on with this. And the first thing you're going to notice with this, you'll smell these nice fruity hops in there. There's a nice kind of slightly juicy orangey citrus coming out of this one. You can smell the tropical fruits though. The Cascade and the Simcoe are quite notable in this. You can really smell those, the Cascade kind of tropical fruits, but underneath that you can smell the black malts coming out of this one, the well-fired malts. It's got a distinct, without sugaring it up, it has quite a distinct dark malty presence just underneath that fruity character. So I want to say there's some orangey citrus in here. There's definitely a tropical fruit presence as well. There's some grapefruit, maybe some passion fruit or pineapple or something like that. From what I remember, the Simcoe hop is one that gives you a little bit of passion fruit or kind of mango-y notes, and you can definitely pick that up. But when you sugar this beer up, of course you start to get more different things out of it. It does become more malty, definitely. So there's some sweet milky chocolate in there, but at the same time you've got a bit of roasted, almost coffee-ish element coming out of this one. And it definitely has that thing I've talked about before with some of these beers. If you think of a baker's loaf and it's well fired across the top, so it's almost black on the crust, it definitely has that kind of well fired bread crust note, this beer. That nice bready malt base that's in there. You can smell some of the caramel sweetness too. There's a sort of toasted brown sugar to this beer. It does smell very nice. Maybe even some kind of woody and nutty notes coming out of this. But overall, it's a really nice smelling beer. You've got a good mix between the fruitiness, definitely grapefruit and orangey citrus coming out of this. Maybe some sort of passion fruit or more juicy fruit from the Simcoe hop too. Cascade, like I said, is grapefruit. The Mosaic hop will give you a nice little bit of earthy character. You can pick up some earthiness to this, but there's a bit of floral character coming out too. So it's quite an interesting aroma. Maybe even there's some red fruity aspects to this beer as well. These sort of candied red fruit esters, but it's more the kind of pungent, oily fruits that you're getting from this that come from the hops. But as I always say, just pay a little bit of attention to the aroma in this beer before you actually try it. There's always a lot going on, and it can always give you a really good idea of what's going to go on in the taste. So for this one, we're going to get stuck in. This is the Modernist Brewery from Liljeholmen in Stockholm in Sweden, and this is the Naut Black IPA. It comes in at 7.5%. One of their newer beers as far as I can tell, so let's get stuck in. Skål from Lund in Skåne in Sweden. Now the first thing you'll notice about this beer, it comes in and it's very wet on the mouthfeel, but then you really start to feel that the dark malts just grab hold of your tongue and you get this bit of dryness and this coffee-ish, well-fired bread crust flavour from this one. You can really feel that spreading across the middle of the tongue almost right away. But yeah, you will notice, sugar this beer around your palate of course before you start dissecting the flavour too much, but you can notice that this is a very good quality beer. I see what they mean with the rating on Rate Beer. Rated at 79, which indicates it is a pretty damn good beer, but 41 within the style. I can see why a little bit, because it does lean a bit more. The hops aren't too present and it's not too juicy, if that makes sense. This one focuses a bit more on the malt, and with a black IPA you want to find that balance. But it's a very, very good beer. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, when it comes to reviewing beer, I talk about the style there. For me, trying to put a beer into a style isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is if it tastes good. You're getting all of these hybrid styles now, where you're trying to cross over. You know, you're getting like Vice IPAs, you're getting black IPAs and things like this, and it works really well. So I think trying to put beer into certain style brackets or categorising beer isn't such a good thing. The focus should definitely be more on the flavour, but of course when you're reviewing beer you do have to talk a little bit about styles. But the main thing is, this is a really nice beer. Yeah. And as the flavour progresses, that balance, it actually starts to balance itself out on the palate a little bit more. So, in the middle of your palate, which is where the malty flavours always come out, you get a nice bready character. That just blankets the middle of the tongue, and on top of that, you get a lot of roasted character too. There's some roasted coffee in there, but as I was mentioning to you when I was talking about the aroma, the flavour that really sticks out to me is when you get that really well-fired bread crust. You can really taste that in this one, and there's a good bit of dryness in the middle of the palate too with this beer. As the flavour progresses too, you start to taste just a little bit of a caramelly flavour, more towards the front of the tongue I think. I'm getting just a little bit of a quite dark roasted brown sugar in this beer. There is an element of licorice I think to this too, but the flavour really is, the malty part of the beer is very much dominated by these kind of roasted coffee-ish malt flavours and the roasted bread crust flavour that I was talking about. There is a good bit of hoppy character in this beer too though. There's some nice earthy hops in the back corner of the palate. As you come further forward, you've got a nice grassy and floral aromatic character to this beer. You can feel just a little bit of the floral dryness around the front of the tongue, and as you go just around that front edge there is a bit of the floral dryness too, but overall it is quite just smooth and grassy. It's very nicely done. The flavours in this beer blend together really quite well. The hops are actually very smooth. It's only really around the front corners that you have this sort of, how do you say, I guess a little bit of a nice dry floral character. You can only feel the dryness of the hops. There's a little bit of it in the back corners and a little bit of it in the front corner, but the rest of the sides of the palate where these hops come out is really quite smooth, and the lingering flavour into the aftertaste does become quite dry. Those dark roasted malts really taking hold there, but there is a bit of that earthy hop lingering too. It's very nicely done. This beer I think definitely leans more towards the malty side of things though. There's definitely an almost pine resiny character to this beer as well. You can feel the pine resins and the aromatic character just underpinning this beer. I mean, when you've got Mosaic in there, Mosaic from what I remember gives you a nice earthy character, but there's also a good bit of that floral aromaticity, and of course you'll get it from the Cascade and the Simcoe as well. They've got their nice fruity characteristics, but they also give you some kind of aromatic, almost resinous character, and the flavours, as I say, go together really well. That dryness from these floral aromatic hops goes well with the roasted bitter dry character of the malt base. It builds a good bridge between both aspects of the flavour. But if we just focus behind the front of the tongue now, as I always say, you get that little oily bubble, and that's where some of the fruity characters come out. There's a bit of citrus presence in there, but at the same time you do have some tropical fruit, and you can feel that blending together. But there's not one single fruit really that kind of punches its way out and dominates the flavour. It's an interesting mix of citrusy and slightly tropical notes. Yeah. You can pick up a little bit of grapefruit, and there's something else mixed in there, but it's actually quite dark and just juicy. There's not a real citrusy presence or a real or there's not really a real big presence to the fruit. You can feel that it's there, and there's a little bit of the kind of red candied esters mixing in with it, and that's probably what's throwing off the flavour in that regard a little bit. There's no one single fruit, as you usually get with some of these beers. There's not one really pushing its way to the fore, and the flavour, as I said, is dominated by these roasted malt characters and also the resin flavours and aromatic characters from the hops. So the fruit flavour is really quite subdued, but there is a little bit of citrus in there. Pardon me, a little bit of tropical fruit. Obviously from the Cascade you'll get some grapefruit in there, probably some passion fruit from the Simcoe too, but that's really dominated. It's really kind of pushed back by these floral aromatic characters and the darker malt base. But overall this is a really nice beer actually. I have quite enjoyed this one, and it's always nice to have one of these dark roasted beers every so often. But in terms of the mouthfeel, this one, I would say this is mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth. There is a good oily mouthfeel to this one. The carbonation does actually play a little bit of a role in bringing out some of the bitter characters of the malt base, and also some of the resin too. There is a little bit of activity there, but you've got a good mix of sweetness and bitter from the malt base, and you also have some nice dry hoppy character as well. The earthiness starts to come out a little bit more in the aftertaste, and the dark roasted elements of the malt base build a good bridge with the drier aspects of the hop too. So the flavour in this one blends together really quite well, and there's not really much in the way of a fruity juiciness to this one either. But overall it's a really nice and quite quirky black IPA. So on the basis of this beer, I certainly wouldn't hesitate to try some of their other things. I have to admit, I'm very curious about their amber ale, so I need to see if I can get that one. It'd be interesting to try their stout as well actually, so I need to see if I can get a hold of some of their other beers through System Bolaget. But this one is very new, and on the basis of this beer I will be trying some of their other ones. I'd recommend this one to people who like the very dark roasted beers but want one that's quite light and quite sessionable. I mean, this beer for 7.5% you get no alcohol warmth really at all. There is just a tiny bit down here, but overall it would be quite a sessionable one. But for me, I would tend never to session dark beers like this. For me, the dark beers tend to be more of a tasting thing. So yeah, I'd recommend this to people who like perhaps coffee stouts and the more roasty, bitter beers and things. You would definitely like this beer in that regard, and it's got a good balance between the floral aromatic hops and that dark roasted malt base. And it's a very new and kind of upcoming brewery from Stockholm, so if you're interested in Swedish beer and you find yourself in Stockholm, try some of the beers from Modernist Brewery. So yeah, this has been my review of the Naut, the black IPA from Modernist Brewery in Liljeholmen in Stockholm in Sweden. Do go and try out their beers if you find them. Hopefully I can review some more of them in the fairly near future. But as always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. I hope you've enjoyed the review. If you have, please subscribe to the channel, and there will be many more Swedish reviews coming up. I thank you once again for watching my beer reviews, and until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and check out the social media things, and I will catch you again soon. But most importantly, go and check out Modernist Brewery from Stockholm in Sweden. I'll catch you soon, and hopefully we can return to these guys in the near future. Cheers.